Town theme song introduces another session of Are You a Genius? Presented for the American fighters and their allies. And conducted by the master half-wit, the genius who set record lows in every Army classification test, the star of this show, Eddie Mayhoff. That's me, men. I thank you. Are you a genius? Now, this is a simple game. I ask a question, then comes music for a half a minute or so, and then I give the correct answer. I know they're correct because they're written down here for me. Now, each correct answer is worth a number of points. Your genius rating is your total score. Now, it'd be a pretty good idea to get out a pencil and some paper because this is really a game for you. You can match wits with your buddies. In other words, are you a genius or is it the guy next to you? Now, do you understand how to play this game? You do? Okay, let's go. That was me, too, fellas. See, I ring the bell, blow the bugle, select the question, sweep up the floor afterwards. Then I hurry home so I'll be there in time to get my whipping. Okay, now pay attention. Here we go. Let's have no old men running up and down the aisles because right here is the first question. It has to do with an everyday scientific fact, and it shouldn't be too tough. Here it is. Why doesn't it hurt when your fingernails and hair are cut? For 10 points, why doesn't it hurt when your fingernails and hair are cut? Music. Why doesn't it hurt when your fingernails and hair are cut? Very simple. Because fingernails and hair do not have nerves. Because fingernails and hair do not have nerves. If that was your answer, score your first 10 points. Of course, there are a lot of guys that are going to claim that a GI haircut does hurt. Matter of fact, I know a rookie who was in the barber chair, and the barber said, "How are the clippers going?" The rookie said, "Well, that depends. If you're cutting my hair, it's going pretty rough. But if you're skinning me, it's going pretty easy." So even if a GI haircut does take several days to heal up, we can't allow you anything on that. As my school teacher, the one who taught me the Palmer method, used to say,
"All right, class, now remember, let's not quibble, scribble, or dribble. Shall we do that, children? And let's all just team up together in our joyous work. Shall we do that?" Ooh, ooh.
Yeah. I could have hit her in the back of the neck with a hot apple. Okay. All of which brings us to the next question.
Pardon me, Mr. Mayhoff, but could I get in on this question stuff? Could I, huh?
No, Orson, go away, will you? That's Orson Klotz, fellas. He's so dumb, he thinks Einstein is one short beer. That's silly. Einstein is one short beer. Yeah, I wonder how many beers it is.
You're not going to let me try, huh?
Maybe later, Orson. Look, right now, you see, the men are ready for the questions. You see, this is a question game we're doing here. All right, question number 2. Here it is. How many pounds of milk do you suppose it takes to make a pound of butter? 13, 15, 17, 19, or 21? 15 points if you get this one right. How many pounds, not quarts, how many pounds of milk does it take to make a pound of butter? 13, 15, 17, 19, or 21? Pick a number. 13, 15, 17, 19, 21. Well, according to the Department of Agriculture, it takes 21 pounds of milk to make 1 pound of butter. 21 pounds of milk for 1 pound of butter. That's 15 points if you got that one right.
Mr. Mayhoff, do you think maybe you could let me in on this genius business? Do you suppose? You know, I got brains that I ain't even used yet.
Look, I'm sorry, Orson, but I'm really very busy.
Well, then, look, let me give you a question. Wait a minute now. I want to be sure I got it straight now. Let's see. Oh, yes. What 2 coins make 55 cents, and one of them isn't a nickel?
And one of them isn't a nickel. All right, Orson, I'll think about it. That guy kills me with his childish question. Oh, well. Now we come to genius question number 3. This is a musical problem, and so I'll oil up the old burpulette and make with the melody. I tell you better stand back, fellas, way back, because as I warm up, there is a fine spray that comes out of the end of this thing. Okay, here's the question. What seasons of the year do these three tunes remind you of? There will be three what I call laughingly called tunes, and of course 3 seasons. 5 points for each one you get right. And here is the first one. Ready? Here we go. I won't go any further with it. I can't stand it. The season that should remind you of is summertime. 5 points if you got it right. 5 points. Of course, I didn't play it any too good, but that's not my fault. I've never been able to make an instrument fast enough for me. You know, sometimes I'm 4 notes ahead of the mechanism. I want you to realize that. All right, now here's the second song. Try to guess the season. Ready? Here we go. Ready? 5 more points if you got that. The answer to that one is spring. And the tune was Mendelssohn's Spring Song. The swallow you heard in there was by the courtesy of the Capistrano Chamber of Commerce. Okay, here we go to the last of the 3 tunes. What season of the year does this remind you of? Bing, bing. 5 points if you got that one. The song was Walking in a Winter Wonderland. And naturally, the season was winter. If you got all 3 of them correct, you can add another 15 points to your score so far.
Mr. Mayhoff, did you get the answer yet to that question that I asked you? You know, what 2 coins make 55 cents and one of them isn't a nickel? Did you get that one yet?
Look, Orson, I don't like to hurt your feelings, but that question is too easy to even bother with. What 2 coins make 55 cents? And why, it's a 50-cent piece and a...
Remember now, one of them isn't a nickel.
Of course not. I understand. Let's see. What 2 coins make...
All right, I'll be back later when you've had a chance to consecrate. You can take plenty of time to figure that one out.
Okay, let's get on with the questions here. Hey, that's kind of tough at that. 2 coins, 55 cents. Well, all right. All right, come on, pay attention, fellas, now. Here we go. Question number 4. It's about movies. Here it is. What famous moving picture comedy team started their career in burlesque, gained fame on the Kate Smith Show, and scored their first hit on the screen in a picture about the Army? 10 points for this one. What comedy team started out in burlesque, gained fame on the Kate Smith Show, and then scored their first hit on the screen in a picture about the Army? You want to be in pictures. They're funny too, those guys. You got it, fellas? See. You got that one right? You have another 10 points. The answer is Abbott and Costello. Abbott and Costello was right. Anybody who ever went to a burlesque show should know that. I used to go to those girl shows all the time, but I had to give it up. I'm too nearsighted. In order not to put a strain on my eyes, I had to sit so close to the runway, I got splinters in my nose. Silly, isn't it? Yeah, I can't get that one yet. You know, that 2 coins and 1 isn't a nickel. Can't be 5 pennies, John. Oh, well. There we go. Question number 5. If you get this one right, you can add another 10 points to your score. Here it is. There were 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. Was George Washington one of them? That's the question. For another 10 points. Was George Washington one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence? That's the only patriotic The answer is no. No. Washington was not one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. That document was adopted by the Continental Congress in Philadelphia on July 4th, 1776, and signed by John Hancock as president and Charles Thompson as secretary. But it wasn't until August 2nd, 1776, that a copy was signed by members of the Continental Congress. And George Washington was not a member. 10 points for that one.
Mr. Mayhoff, just a minute, look, did you figure that one out yet? That, that question I asked you, about the 55 cents,
No, I didn't, Orson, and will you please go away? I've got work to do. I can't be bothered with all these interruptions.
Some genius, some genius.
Yeah, ha, 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 ha. I'm beginning to hate him. Let's see, it might be a quarter and 30 cents. Oh, that's too many coins. Quarter, 30, let's see. Oh, well. Well, that ends our questions for this quiz session, men. Add up your scores. Do not be embarrassed. Do not be embarrassed. If you got them all right, your score should be 60. And if you're not a genius, you're on your way, kid. 40 points is about average, and anything above that is excellent.
Mr. Mayhoff, you give up on that question I asked you yet? You give up on that question? You've been sitting here your face has been kind of in a sort of a sunken position. I thought maybe you were kind of figuring out the question.
No, Orson, I've been too busy, and I haven't even thought about it.
Okay, if you don't want to know the answer, then so long.
Now, wait a minute. Look, Orson, don't be hasty. Sit down a minute, will you? The question was, what two coins make 55 cents, and one of them isn't a nickel? Is that right?
Yes, yeah, that's right. You haven't got it, though.
All right, I give up. What two coins are they?
A 50-cent piece and a nickel.
Now, wait a minute. You said one of the coins wasn't a nickel.
Yeah, the one that isn't a nickel is a 50-cent piece. Some genius, you are. Some genius.
Remind me to set a trap for that guy, will you? All right, we'll be back soon to give you another crack at the new Army game, fellas. Are you a genius? You need no cards, no chips, only your old noodle. We give you free music, free questions, a free education. Will you get out of here, Orson? And you pick up whatever you can on the side. This is Eddie Mayhoff signing off and asking you once again, are you a genius? I am not. As a matter of fact, my cousins are all full-blooded American idiots. Are You a Genius is produced by the Special Service Division of the War Department of the United States of America. This program has been a part of our English language shortwave service. Broken down theme song introduces another session of Are You a Genius? Presented for American fighters and their allies. And conducted by the master half-wit, the genius who set record lows in every Army classification test, the star of this show, Eddie Mayhoff. That's me, fellas. I thank you. Are you a genius? Yes. This is a simple game. All you need is a pencil and paper and a few right answers. I ask a question, and comes music for a half a minute or so while you think it over, and then I give the correct answer. I know they're correct because they're written down here. Each correct answer is worth a certain number of points. I'll give you the value of each question as we go along, and your genius rating is your total score. Now, do you understand how to play this game? Okay. In this session, We have, how many questions do we have in this session? I think we have 6 questions. Yeah, 6 questions for a total of 100 points. Well, here we go for the first question, fellas. And on this session, we have 6 questions for a total of 100 points. I hope you feel smarter than I do right now. I'm about as sharp as a bag full of wet mice. Okay, here's the question, and it should be pretty easy. It's about a big truck driver who comes to your house and says, "I can't move that big piano for you, mister, without me dolly." Now, for 10 points, is the truck man kidding? Who or what is the dolly he is referring to? Dolly, let's have a lot of folly. Roll out the dolly. Don't worry about the last names, fellas. Just think of dolly, dolly, dolly. Roll out the dolly, dolly, dolly. All right, I think that'll be, thank you very much. I think that'll be enough, I think. All right, here is the answer. A dolly is a low platform on wheels or casters used for moving heavy objects. If you knew, you now have 10 points, but don't get too conceited. The tough ones are coming up. And with that warning, we proceed to question number 2. This is for 15 points, and here it is. Horsemen use the word hands in measuring horses. They say a horse is 12 hands high, or 16 hands high. Now, here's the question. How many inches is one of those hands? That's the question. How many inches is one of those hands? Here we go. Speaking about measuring in hands, my uncle had a horse down in Atlantic City. He got good and tired of that thing. Turned around one day and he says to my uncle, "Take your dirty hands off me, you jerk." Just snapped at him, you know what I mean? Can't blame the guy. Just tired, that's all. Now, when a horseman speaks of a horse as so many hands high, he speaks in units of 4 inches. The width of the average man's hand at the palm is the basis for the use of the word hand in measuring horses. 15 points if you got that right. Speaking of horses, reminds me that I bet on one of Bing Crosby's horses once, and he ran the wrong way. When the horse got around the track, he met the other nags coming at him. He got so frightened, he jumped clear over the fence. I found out later what scared him. It was the first time he had ever seen the front end of another horse. All right, so it's an old joke. All right. It was a very old horse. Okay, here's a question that will test your memory. Test your memory, you memory fiends, you. Question number 3. How well do you know your Aesop fables? This question is worth 20 points. 20 points. What fable illustrated the moral, "Do not trust flatterers"? For 20 points, which Aesop fable proved the advice, "Do not trust flatterers"? I'll give you a hint. There's a piece of cheese in it someplace. Besides me. I heard you, you louse. You flatterer, you. You flatterer, you. You flatterer, you flatterer. I bet you tell that to all the crowettes. I bet you tell you flatterer, you. Ready, fellas? Yeah, that man's got it. Okay, the answer, the fable of the fox and the crow. Remember? The crow had a piece of cheese in its bill, and the fox kept flattering the crow by telling her that she had a beautiful singing voice. And the crow, overcome by the flattery of the fox, opened her mouth to sing, and down fell the cheese to Mr. Fox. 20 points if you remember the fable about the fox and the crow. If you did, brother, you're the guy we're looking for. You're it, the genius. I don't see how anybody could ever remember that. Anyway, it was a fox, not a wolf. course, everybody knows what a wolf is. That's a guy who goes into a restaurant and orders a waitress. All right, that brings us to question number 4. Getting this one right will depend on how well you remember Longfellow's poem of Hiawatha. Longfellow's poem. Now, here's the question. What was it that stood beside that huge body of water in this famous Indian story? 20 points for this question. The answer comes in the second line of the poem. What was it that stood beside that body of water in Longfellow's Indian classic, The Song of Hiawatha? Well, did you remember it, fellas? It was a wigwam. That's right. A wigwam that stood by the shores of the Gitche-Gumee, now known as Lake Superior. Let's see. How did the poem go? By the shores of Gitche-Gumee, by the shining big sea water, stood the wigwam of Nokomis, daughter of the moon. Nokomis. So for 20 points, it was a wigwam that stood by the Gitche-Gumee. I really got a great memory for poetry, haven't I? Of course, it helped a little to have Longfellow's book here in front of me, but, well, we just won't count that. Now, in the noble schoolroom, squatting, sits the little Eddie Mayhoff, making questions for the warriors. Come to next one, plenty toughy. Longfellow's got me doing it. Well, anyway, here's the next question. Number 5. This one is musical, and I mean musical. I shall render the selections myself in person. You know, a funny thing happened to me on the way up to the studio today, and this is it, the Burfiolette. Stand back, fellas, way back. Now, back to the question, and it's worth 15 points if you get it right. 5 points for each of its 3 parts. In the titles of the songs you're about to hear, how many different metals can you find? You know, metals like zinc, copper, tin, and so forth. Here's the first song, and from its title, you should be able to get at least one metal, if I can play it. Here we go, let's all hope. I'm sorry, wrong keyboard, That was supposed to sound like 10 cents a dance. And since 10 cents could be either a dime or 2 nickels, if you got the answer silver or nickel, you were right, and you now have 5 points of the possible 15. I thought lead was the answer. And if you ever danced with my girl, you'd know what I mean by lead. Now, here's the second part of this question. Listen to this tune, and if you know the title, see if you can guess the metal. Okay. Somebody asked, why do I have to play them on these things anyway? I do not have the answer to that. Remember the song, fellas? Pennies from heaven. Yeah. And pennies are made from copper. So 5 more points for copper. 5 more points for copper if you got that. Now for the last metal found in the title of this song. Sad horn player in the low-priced field. Well, this time either silver or gold will win you 5 more points. The song was that old favorite, Silver Threads among the gold. I love the pear-shaped tones this afternoon. 15 points if you scored on all 3 songs. All right, men, here's a chance for the quick thinkers to add to the average. Question number 6. This one is a little tricky if you're not on your toes. It's about a famous American citizen. Here it is. For 20 points, is this statement right or wrong? Calvin Coolidge is not listed in Who's Who in America. I'll say that again. Here's the statement. Is it right or wrong? Calvin Coolidge is not in Who's Who in America. Is it right or wrong, that statement? Think it over, fellas. The statement is right. Calvin Coolidge is not in Who's Who in America. The book Who's Who in America contains only the biographies of living persons. Score 20 points if you knew this interesting fact. Well, that brings us to the end of this particular episode of Are You a Genius? Add up your points and see how close to an Einstein you are. The most that you could have tallied on the whole quiz, as you know, is 100 points. If you got that many, you should be fixing to get promoted. If you scored 70, that's good, and anything over 50 is fair. Anything under 50 is, well, all right, so you're in my class. So long now. We'll be back soon to give you another crack at the new Army game, Are You a Genius? You need no cards, no chips, only your old noodle. We give you free music, free questions, a free education, and you pick up whatever you can on the side. This is Eddie Mayhoff signing off and asking you once again, are you a genius? As for me, I am not. Are You a Genius is produced by the Special Service Division of the War Department of the United States of America. This program has been a part of our English language shortwave service.
Broken down theme song introduces another session of Are You a Genius? Presented for American fighters and their allies.
And conducted by the master half-wit, the genius who set record lows in every Army classification test. The star of this show, Eddie Mayhoff.
That's me, fellas. Thank you. Are You a Genius? This is a simple game. All you need is a pencil and paper and a few right answers and a good bird. I ask a question, and comes music for half a minute or so, and then I give the correct answer. Each correct answer is worth a certain number of points. I'll give you the value of each question as we go along, and your genius rating is your total score. Understand how to play the game now? All right. In this session, we have 6 questions for a total of 100 points. And zip, 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 just like a GI barber, we zam right into the first thing on the list here, which happens to be a question about history. British history it is. And you should all remember the little story that gives the key to the right answer. A famous knight in Britain once threw his cloak down into the mud so that a queen might walk across the puddle without soiling her shoes. Now, for 20 points, what was the knight's name, and what was the name of the queen for whom he put his cloak down in the mud? 10 points for the name of the knight, and 10 points for the Queen's name. Yep. All right. You should have the answer by now, or at least part of it, for 10 points. The knight who threw down his cloak, pardon me, men, the knight who threw down his cloak so that a queen might walk on it was Sir Walter Raleigh. Yep. And for the other 10 points, the queen's name was Elizabeth. If you knew both persons concerned in that query, you are now richer by 20 points. Not many people know it, mostly because I can't get anyone to listen to me, but my ancestors were very well known in British history. Yeah. In fact, my great-great-grandfather was a real knight at King Arthur's Round Table. Honestly, we got a picture of him at home wearing his dueling pants. I think he made the pants himself because right across the back of them it says Pillsbury. Of course, that was back in the days when knighthood was in flower. Ooh. Did I say that? I'm sorry, fellas, really. All right, and here we are, the next question. This one is about someone on the American stage, an outstanding personality in the theater, and the correct answer is worth 10 points. Here is the question. What comedian who has appeared both on the American radio and stage is known as the Perfect Fool? To tell the truth, he appeared in a musical comedy by that very title. For 10 points, what comedian is known as the Perfect Fool? Well, anyway, I'm all right and everybody else is nuts. That's the only way to explain it. Okay, the comedian who has become known as the Perfect Fool is Ed Wynn. Yes, sir, Ed Wynn is the right answer to that one. He is the comedian who goes by the name of the Perfect Fool, so take 10 points if that is what you said. You know, when I was young, I wanted to be a comedian worse than anything in the world. I used to go out in the woods all by myself and write jokes in a little book. I'll never forget the day I ran into a polecat and I came home with my clothes on the end of a stick. A couple of weeks after that, the polecat came out of the woods with my joke book on the end of a stick. But I know how he meant it. You know, I mean, those things. Well, all right, the next question is about sports. To be exact, it's about horse racing. And to be more exact, it's about the Kentucky Derby. And that's pretty exact. Yeah. All right, let's have the question. All right, here it is. What is the distance of the Kentucky Derby? You guys from down around the bluegrass country should pick up an easy 15 points. Yes, 15 points for this little kid. What is the distance of the Kentucky Derby? You can answer either in miles or furlongs. It makes no difference. All right. Here they go. And they're off. Let's see, where are we? Oh, yes, I almost got left in the stretch. Well, here's the answer to that. The distance of the Kentucky Derby is 1 1/4 miles. Or if you said 10 furlongs, you still collected 15 points because a furlong is 1/8 of a mile, and 10 furlongs equals 1 1/4 miles, which is the distance of the Kentucky Derby, and the correct answer. Take 15 points if that was your comeback. I don't know why I never win in those races. Gee, my father told me just how to pick a winning horse. He had it figured out so he just couldn't possibly lose. He used to tell me as he rocked up and down on the porch of the poorhouse. But he really was a good judge of horse flesh. He used to tell me to always bet on a horse that was skinny. I tried it the last time I was out of the track, but I think I must have, I think I overdid it. The horse I bet on was so skinny that when he passed the bandstand with all of those musical instruments, one xylophone turned to another and said, "There's the one with skin I was telling you about." I didn't care, though. Who wants money? What am I saying? Do that. And here's that ever-loving GI question, men. On this occasion, it gets you 15 points and shouldn't be too tough for anybody if you just scratch those brains. Here it is. What is the highest decoration conferred on a soldier by the United States Army? For 15 points, what is the name of the highest decoration conferred on a soldier by the United States Army? Well, men, the highest decoration conferred on a soldier by the United States Army is the Medal of Honor. It is awarded in the name of Congress to an officer or enlisted man who, in conflict with an enemy, distinguishes himself conspicuously by gallantry at the risk of his life and above and beyond the call of duty. I bet those are awfully sweet words to hear as the President pins that 5-pointed star surrounded by a laurel wreath on the front of his blouse. Yes, sir. And if you said that the Medal of Honor is the highest decoration conferred on a soldier by the United States Army, you have 15 more points to add to your genius score, sir. And once more, gentlemen, we arrive at the high point on this program, the little musical quiz where I play the burpulette and usually lose. On this occasion, the bout will go about 3 rounds. That sound you just heard was the burpulette, and there's nothing to be afraid of. I'm closer to it than you are. All right. The songs you have to guess the names of are all wrapped up in a little story, which I will tell you as I go along. First of all, a boy met a girl, and from the first song title, you will learn where he met her. Okay? Listen. That's where he met her, down by the old mill stream. If you guessed that, the boy met the girl down by the old mill stream. You've got the first 10 of the 30 points awarded for your musical memory. This next tune will tell you what the boy and the girl did next. Yep, that's right. They went strolling through the park because that happened to be the name of the song, Strolling Through the Park. Park is a wonderful thing for making love. Find a nice bench where you and your girl can be alone, and you sit there in the dark with your arms around each other, and just to make the scene complete, that great big round red thing comes floating through the trees. You know, the MP. But they're great guys, it says here. Well, anyway, after the boy and the girl met down by the old mill stream and went strolling through the park, they decided to get hitched, and they did. And ever after, they lived happily in a house like this. These valves, they don't cooperate. Yeah, that tune is called Just a Love Nest, but if you said In a Little Love Nest or just plain Love Nest, you can still take the last 10 points, although you deserve more, of the 30 on this musical question. And here we go on the last quiz item. Here we go, and this is a good question, too. It's not so tough, and so you have to get all 3 parts of it right to snag the 10 points. This is it. If I said to give me, in slang, a color for a guy who was inexperienced, you'd say he was green, wouldn't you? Right. Well, what colors are represented in slang by the following words? Angry, sad, and cowardly. I'll repeat that. Listen carefully. What 3 colors, using slang, are represented by the following words? Angry, sad, and cowardly. Well, I put my own downbeat on the thing. That's all you can do. They don't work with you. All right, here you are, the correct answers, and don't forget you have to get all three of them right to garner the last 10 points. The slang word for angry is red. That wasn't tough. And the slang word for sad is blue. And the word for cowardly is yellow. Add 10 points to your total if you said that angry is represented by the word red, sad means blue, and cowardly means yellow. I saw a guy yesterday who looked awfully blue. I was in an elevator with him, and he was the saddest-looking character I've ever seen. Finally, I turned to him and I said, "Excuse me, stranger, but what in the world makes you look so sad?" He looked at me through his tears and said, "Well, the most important reason is that you're standing on my foot." Everything happens to me. I don't know. All right, make with the pencil, add up those scores. If you got the top score of 100, you'll send you to bed with that, send you into that bed that Professor Einstein slept in, and that is if we can get Einstein out of it. Rolling along, another platter in your direction soon, so be watching for it, will you? Thanks a lot. And until then, this is Eddie Mayhoff, the old funnelhead, saying so long and asking you once again, are you a genius? I am. My grandfather was a genius, too. He was the guy who invented suspenders to hold your pants up. In fact, that was the first Social Security, brother. Are You a Genius is produced by the Special Service Division of the War Department of the United States of America. Broken down theme song introduces another session of Are You a Genius? Presented for American fighters and their allies. And conducted by the master half-wit, genius who set record lows in every Army classification test, star of this show, Eddie Mayhoff. That's me, fellas. I thank you. Are you a genius? This is a simple game. All you need is a pencil and paper and a few right answers. I ask a question, and comes music for a half a minute or so, and then I give the correct answer. Each correct answer is worth a certain number of points. I'll give you the value of each question as we go along, and your genius rating is your total score. Now, do you understand how to play the game? All right. In this session, we have 6 questions for a total of 100 points. And the first item on the quiz menu is a little matter about an indoor sport known as bowling. If you know anything about that pastime, you can start yourself off by picking up the first 15 points. Here is the question. What is the highest possible score anyone can get in bowling? 15 points for this right answer. What is the highest possible score anyone can get in bowling? Here we go. The days are here again. enough time to think of the right answer. Also to get apoplexy. The highest possible score you can get in bowling is 300 points. That is known as a perfect score, and in order to get it, every one of the 12 balls the bowler throws must be a strike, or in other words, each one must knock down all 10 pins. Take 15 points for your genius score if you said that 300 is the highest possible tally you can get in the game of bowling. Years ago, when I was much younger and healthier, I got a job as pin boy in a bowling alley. Now, I'm a guy who doesn't mind a little physical discomfort, but, brother, that job was so tough, I couldn't stand it for more than 3 hours at a stretch. You see, 2 of the pins were missing, and I had to stand in for them. Gee, I tell you, I've had a time all along, man. Well, all right, so now we turn to the next question. This one is about nursery rhymes. At least it concerns one well-known nursery rhyme, and if your memory is good, you can get another 15 points right here. You all remember the one that begins, Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden? For 15 points, what did Mary, quite contrary, grow in her garden? What did she grow? Okay, calm down. Shut that thing off, too, will you, Mac? All right, let's have the answer to that. All right, just a second. Here it is. What did Mary, quite contrary, grow in her garden? Well, it was silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a row. Yes, sir, for 15 points. The whole thing went like this. Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a row. Take 15 points if you got that one right. Of course, what the school books didn't tell you is that Mary also raised radishes in her garden, and thereby, gentlemen, hangs a tale. You see, Mary's father was a glass blower. Didn't know that, did you? Well, he was. He was a glass blower, and one day, just before he started work, he ate a lot of Mary's radishes, and they gave him the hiccups. It was terrible. Before they could get him stopped, he blew a whole room full of Silex coffee pots. What a mess. It was terrible. Well, that brings us up to the third question, men. This one has to do with, one incident in the history of aviation and is worth 20 points. 10 points for each half of it that you get correct. Here it is. What was the name of the plane Charles Lindbergh used to fly the Atlantic? And how many engines did it have? There you are. 10 points for each half of it. What was the name of the plane Charles Lindbergh used to fly the Atlantic? And how many engines did it have? I could do it. All right. 20 points altogether. Here are the 2 correct answers. The name of Lindbergh's plane was the Spirit of St. Louis, and it had just 1 engine. 10 points for each half of the question. The plane in which Lindbergh flew the Atlantic was called the Spirit of St. Louis, and it was powered with just 1 engine. I saw one of those helicopters the other day. Now, there is really a great invention. The thing goes straight up in the air, just like a skyrocket, and then it comes back down the same way. They got the idea from my Uncle Julius one time when he drank some gasoline by mistake. There's a character. He bought some false teeth last week out of a mail-order catalog. Imagine buying false teeth that way. They don't fit very well, and they keep whistling all the time. The other night he was eating soup, and they whistled so much, he got 4 messages from the Coast Guard. Good old Uncle Julius, I want to tell you, there's a guy. All right, and now comes the GI question, men. This one will get you 10 points for the right comeback, and it's not very tough. Is it true or false that the middle of the day is the most likely time for an enemy cloud gas attack? 10 points if you get the right answer on this. Is it true or is it false that the middle of the day is the most likely time for an enemy cloud gas attack? Well, the answer to that query is that the statement is false. The middle of the day is the least favorable time for an enemy gas attack due to the fact that the ground is warmer than the air and causes rising air currents, which in turn make the gas rise quickly. 10 points if you said approximately that. The middle of the day is the least favorable time for an enemy gas attack because the ground is warmer than the air and causes rising air currents, which make the gas rise quickly. All right. And now we come to the musical part of this quizola, at which time I'm happy to announce that I play the burpulette. I think I can say without fear of contradiction that there is no one who plays the burpulette the way I do. You see what I mean? I got a letter the other day from a man who invented this instrument, and he wanted to thank me for introducing it to the public. He said, "Mayhoff, since you have played the burpulette in public, orders for the instrument have been pouring in at the rate of one a year." And with that encouraging bit of news, we turn to the music. On this occasion, I am going to play 3 songs that have one or more names of the months of the year in their titles. All you have to do to get 10 points on each of them is to guess the names of the months. All right, here is the first song whose title contains the name of a month. Recognize that tune, you have a great ear for music and plenty of tolerance. The name of it was September in the Rain. I got the rain effect by draining one of the valves. Well, take 10 points if you knew that September was the name of the month in that song. And here's the next one. This has the name of 2 months in its title. Okay, that tune I just battled to a draw was known back a few years ago as June in January. Yes, believe it or not, it was June in January. And if you happen to detect that, you have another 10 points for your final score. Here is the last song with the name of a month in its title, and this one is quite a bit tougher. If you don't believe me, wait till you hear the way I play it. Answers the name of April in Paris. So, of course, April should have been your answer to that. The last 10 points on this here musical quiz. Yes, sir. All right, here's the last question for, let's see, we got about 10 points left. 10 points to make the even 100. This one is another sport query, and this is it. In tennis, in the game of tennis, what does love mean? You've heard tennis scores such as 40 love or love game, but what does the word love mean in that particular spot? going too far. All right, here's the answer to that. In tennis scores, the word love means 0 or nothing. If someone beats you 40-love, they have skunked you 40-0. I'm always learning some new sport, but I'm not very good at anything. I just don't catch on very fast. I've never forget when I took up horseback riding. I went out for about an hour, and I didn't seem to be getting any place, and it was all on account of the horse. I complained to the guy at the stable. I said, look, how do you expect me to ride a horse as old as this one is? Look at him. He's so old, he's got a beard. The guy said, that's no beard. You're riding him backwards. I don't know. I guess I'm just dumb or something. I don't know. All right, men, are you ready? Get those pencils and papers, boys. Get those pencils. Get those papers. What am I saying? All right. Now, go ahead and add up scores. 50 is not so hot. I will tell you right now, 50 is not so hot. 60 is average, and anything above 70 is getting mighty close to that fine genius rating of 100 points. No question about it. All right. Be on the lookout for another edition of this mental jam session, which will be along your way very soon. Will you? All right. So in the meantime, this is Eddie Mayhoff, the old pinhead, saying goodbye now and asking you once more, are you a genius? I am. I showed my Uncle Julius how to get the cows on his farm to produce more by putting a radio in the barn. It worked, too. When he came back, there was milk all over the place. They'd been listening to Double or Nothing. Plain silly. Are You a Genius is produced by the Special Service Division of the War Department of the United States of America.